Yo, what's good, YouTube, man? It's Gary with another Fan TV back. Actually, another video. Like the content of this video, go and smash that like button. Like the content of this channel, go and subscribe, man. Look, so I want to talk about two things today, man. Some Ravens news. A little bit about the injury report. So, secondly, about some comments Lamar Jackson made in his media availability about his past playoff performances. Right. So first, let's start off with the injury news. Right. So we know that Zay Flowers got hurt versus the Cleveland Browns this Saturday. Unfortunate. Early on in the game, first, second quarter, right? I believe my probably was the second quarter, right? And we know that his status for this game is up in the air, right? But the first big news we got today is that he was DNP today at practice, right? So not an overly big surprise, right? Coming up with that kind of injury, I didn't expect him to be out there in any kind of capacity. But when you listen to the Twitter doctors and even some of the insiders, they're saying that it's look like this week's gonna be tough for him to come back, and then maybe next week if the Ravens get past the Steelers, that Zay Flowers will be back, right? So we'll keep an eye on that, see what happens. I saw Kyle Van Noy made a comment about it. I think he's on a podcast or maybe his podcast actually, and saying that Zay Flowers is going to do everything in his power to play, knowing the kind of guy he is, this and that. Now we'll take that with a grain of salt. That's just Kyle Van Noy being a veteran, good teammate, right? We know that as even as fans, as Zay Flowers is going to do everything he can to try to play. But if the coaching staff or and the training staff is going to sit him down, ain't too much he can do about that, right? So we'll keep an eye out for that. But as far as Van Noy, he could just be like, "Hey, look, we ain't trying to get the Steelers. No tips on who's playing, who's not this early on in the week, right? So keep Zay Flowers in that game plan, whether or not he plays or not, right? We'll see. All right. Secondly, two guys came back. Justice Hill was in limited capacity today, and then Deontay Johnson was active. Deontay Johnson, that's crazy. Deontay Hardy, excuse me. Deontay Hardy was activated from IR, right? Deontay Hardy has been on and off of injuries this entire year, right? Going even dating back to off-season workouts, right? We really haven't seen much of Deontay Hardy this season, right? So Ravens haven't really missed him in a return game capacity. We'll see how much he plays if he does play. But he was back at practice. Justice Hill being back is a big deal, honestly, because he's a great force in that passing game. Derrick Henry picked up some of that these last couple of weeks. Did a really good job of it. But Justice Hill, that's kind of his role. Justice Hill's good at picking up the blitz as well. He's kind of been one of the Ravens' unsung heroes, right? When you talk about some of the most steady players on this offense, outside of your Lamar Jacksons, your Derrick Henrys, guys like that, Justice Hill's not too far down the list, right? You can depend on Justice Hill. He's been that kind of guy really this entire year, right? So hopefully the Ravens can get him back, right? All right, now what I want to talk about mainly was Lamar Jackson made some comments, right, when asked about his past playoff performances and what is like going to be different about this time around, right? So one of the first things they asked him about was the fact that, do you remember like 2019? Because that's obviously a very famous thing that they always had to ask him about, right? Whatever. But basically, what he said was that he was really young, everything happened really fast to him, and that the only playoff game that he really looks back on with any kind of remembrance is last year AFC Championship game because excuse me, the Ravens were so close to get to that Super Bowl, right? Which is obviously the ultimate goal, right? So that's the only game he really looks back on with any kind of dang, I wish this or that would have happened. He said they asked him what he remembers. He says that we lost. All right, so we know what kind of competitor Lamar Jackson is, right? But the comment that really stuck out to me was Jefferson Rebec kind of summarized Lamar Jackson's feelings, and he said that Lamar Jackson acknowledged that he's gotten too excited, too antsy in some past playoff games. Feels like experience has helped him in that area. Now, I'm hoping that this has helped the entire team because I don't feel like it's just Lamar Jackson that's gotten this way. I feel like it's the head coach, the OC, the DC. Everybody has feel like when you feel like this Ravens team in these kind of playoff games, do or die scenarios has gotten too excited, too antsy, and gotten out of their game plan and gotten in their own way when it comes to success, right? So when to me, in the past with Lamar Jackson's like last year in the Chiefs game, it seems like a lot of times, he was reluctant to take off when it was running lanes there, this and that. He mentioned that himself, right? That he should have did some more of that, right? Or where the running back, Gus Edwards, only gets 6 carries in that game. Okay. So it's not just Lamar Jackson, right? A lot of things have happened in the Ravens playoff game, especially in his career that are unfortunate to him, uh, drop passes, bonehead penalties. I mean, the game in Buffalo, he gets knocked out the game because center snaps the ball over his head. He tries to make a play, gets a concussion. You know what I mean? So it's like play after play after play. Not everything has been on Lamar Jackson by a long shot. He's actually been, narratives aside, I think Lamar Jackson has been a pretty good playoff performer, right? You know what I mean? But you can see certain areas in his game that he's gotten too excited and tried to press and try to force the issue, right? Prime example is, the Isaiah Likely pass in triple coverage, right? Was it pass interference? Probably. Should he have thrown it? Probably not, right? So it's plays like that. The whole Chiefs game just felt weird last year, right? You know what I mean? We get, like I said, we go back to the running the ball, right? Things situation, right? The Ravens get down, one possession or the game doesn't go how they think it's going to go. All of a sudden, it's spread out, all air out attack, and they get out of their game plan, right? So when I hear these comments from Lamar Jackson about I've gotten too excited, I've gotten too antsy, I'm learning how to slow it down. The game is slowing down for me in terms of the playoffs, right? That's beautiful to hear, right? Because when I look at the Ravens pass and Lamar Jackson's pass in the playoffs, it feels like the team that has beat the Ravens is the Ravens, right? Now, kudos and credit to the other guys on the other side of the ball who did their thing. Hey, listen, they went out there, they won the game, right? Can't take that away from them. But it does feel like in these games, the Ravens have gotten in their own way. Now, if the Ravens can kick that syndrome, kick that habit, and actually play up to their potential for the entire game, this is a team that can win the Super Bowl. And we know that, right? That's without a shadow of a doubt. Okay. So that's what I'm looking for. That's why, like, this kind of comment from Lamar Jackson, to me, it gets me really excited about what these playoffs could be, right? I'm hoping that, that it's not just talking. We actually get to see it in action on the field. And not just from him, from everybody, right? From Harbaugh, from Munkin. They need to be better in the playoffs, right? That whole we got too excited, we got too antsy, that applies to the coaching staff as well. All right. One thing goes bad, one little bit of adversity, and all of a sudden the game plan is different. That doesn't need to happen, right? So the Ravens, they'll go into this game versus the Steelers, right? It's going to be an empty bank, obviously. It's going to be a great crowd on their side, but don't get it twisted, right? The Steelers are a divisional game. You're playing them for the third time in this season. It's going to be a tough game. Some adversity is going to hit, whether that's an early turnover, early points by the Steelers, whatever. It can happen, right? The Ravens scored 34 points for the Steelers last time. That might not be this time around, right? You may have to win this game 17-14, 20-14. Can you win a lower scoring, closer kind of game where mistakes have to be limited, where penalties have to be limited, right? So I kind of took this Lamar Jackson comment as he's the leader of the team, right? Which he is. So if the leader of the team is going to be calmer, less antsy, less excited, not overly pressing things in crucial situations, I'm hoping that's going to spread to the entire team. Because that spreads to the entire team, the Ravens have a real chance to do something, right? So that one comment for Lamar Jackson to me is a person that he looked at the past, he saw some mistakes, and now he's able to correct them into the future going into this game, right? And to me, that's great news, right? That's great news for the Ravens, right? So, personally, for this game versus Steelers, I think that it's going to be a close one. I know a lot of people are, especially with Zay Flowers, and his injury right now, which doesn't look like he's going to play, right? I know a lot of people are, Ravens are like almost 10-point favorites and stuff like that. Listen, I said it, man. When it comes to these kind of division games, then you get a divisional game in the playoffs. It's going to be tough, right? I'm not going to say automatically the Ravens are going to win this game by double digits, right? The Ravens have done things in the past that doesn't make sense, right? So, but for this game, for Lamar Jackson, for the leader of this team to say that, I'm pretty much how I took it is that I'm calmer now in these high leverage, tense situations. That's perfect. That's all the Ravens need, right? They need a steady hand at the ship when things are kind of going crazy, and can you calm everybody down, right? Last year, um, I don't want to take moments of passion as being, you got too excited, right? But like, you could see Lamar Jackson on the sideline. It was clearly affecting him how the game was going. Whether it's slamming the helmet or how he was just looking on the sideline, right? This year, I don't really expect to see that, right? I think that he knows that everybody's looking at him and that, hey, if something happens that early in the game, that adversity hits, that as an entire team, they got to take that and leave it in the past, go on to the next play. Right. So that's really what I'm looking for from this entire team. And if the Ravens can successfully pull that off, right, they'll not only beat the Steelers, that they can go very, very far in this playoffs, right? Because I've said before, right, credit to other teams that won games versus the Ravens, but I constantly feel like the Ravens have gotten in their own way and beat themselves, right? So if step one is we have learned how to not beat ourselves, perfect, right? Um, Before this Browns game, the last couple of games the Ravens were playing, it was less penalties. They was winning the turnover battle, things like that. Now in the Browns game, turnover battle, not turnover battle, excuse me, really the turnover battle. Yeah, they missed a couple fourth downs, but penalties kind of snuck back up on them too. They had like 10 penalties to the Browns is 3. Okay. But a couple games before that, the Ravens were winning turnover battle. They were winning the penalty battle. Those kind of mental adjustments, they can keep that, they'll go far, right? So for Lamar Jackson in this press conference, I was very encouraged by what I heard. And I hope that we get to see that out there on the field, right? And I have no doubt that we can. All right, so that's my thoughts on it. Obviously, give me your thoughts on the comments, man. But it's Gabriel, which is on the Fan TV. I'm out.